Hi, I'd like to tell you a story about one of the most terrifying things Jesus ever said. The thing that makes it even more terrifying is that it might be about me or you. This is about my midnight heart. So I got a call from a dead person. My heart stopped while I stared at the phone screen. The name belonged to a woman that I'd known many years ago. I knew it couldn't be her, but chills raced down my arms anyway. So I answered the phone. The caller was her ex. She'd left him because he emotionally brutalized her. But why was he calling me? Turns out he wasn't calling about his ex. He was calling because my wife had recently died. And he wasn't calling to give condolences. He wanted me to say that my wife's suicide wasn't his fault. Yes, it was. It was all I could do not to scream into the phone. All right, I knew it wasn't his fault, but he and a few others had systematically bludgeoned my wife's frail heart until it was so shattered she couldn't recover. You know what? He deserved every ounce of hell his conscience gave him. Maybe an eternity more. Maybe that would come close to the hell he forced on the rest of us. And there it was. One of those crucial moments that rips away the veneer of civility to reveal an internal darkness that I didn't even know was there. No wonder Jesus said, "It isn't what goes in your mouth that defiles you, it's what comes out." What comes out shows what's really in your heart. The strange thing is, I thought I'd forgiven all of them. But if I'd really forgiven, and it's now God's problem, then why am I angry again? And is it such a big deal if I hold on to just a little bit of anger? Well, yeah, it's a huge deal. Bitterness is lethal. Mark Twain said, "Resentment is like drinking poison and hoping the other guy will die." The offender sleeps like a baby at night, while I, the wronged, toss and turn. Now, if it's killing me, and not them, how do I let it go? Well, my first challenge is to recognize when something is festering. Most of the time, I live with a pretty deep sense of peace and joy. But there are days when I drop something on the floor and want to explode, or someone cuts me off on the road and I'm an avalanche of curses. I think that's usually a pretty good time to pause and ask myself what's really going on. The answer is almost always something that somebody said or did, maybe weeks ago, that's gnawing a hole in my soul. All it takes is the tiniest piece of resentment, and I turn into someone I don't want to be. Forgiving can be really hard, especially if the wrongs are big ones, like mine. However, Ecclesiastes reminds me that anger resides in the hearts of fools. Here are 3 things that forgiveness isn't. 1. Forgiveness isn't letting someone off the hook. Pastor Chris Brown says it this way: "It's letting them off my hook and leaving them on God's." God says, "Vengeance is mine and I will repay." Will. That makes me feel better. Number 2. Forgiveness for one offense doesn't just happen once. I think of it like weeding. You pull them up and before you know it, they're back again. And if something's really bad, I have to forgive again and again. Maybe 70 times 7. Thankfully, there comes a time when it's finally gone. Number 3, forgiveness isn't pretending someone can be trusted again. It helps me to imagine that they did it to somebody else. That way, I don't have to be personally angry at them for doing it, but I certainly won't put myself in a position to let them do it to me again. What is forgiveness? It's a ticket out of hell. You see, bitterness makes life hell for me and the people around me, even if I don't realize it. But it's worse than that. In Matthew 6:15, Jesus says one of the most terrifying things in the Bible. But if you refuse to forgive others, Your Father will not forgive your sins. So, if that person has already put me through hell in this life, do I really want them to drag me there in the next one as well? So, how do I forgive when every fiber in my being wants gruesome revenge? Corrie ten Boom tells us that forgiveness is an act of will. After being tortured in the Nazi death camps, she opened a home for victims of Nazi cruelty. She noticed that, quote, those who were able to forgive their former enemies were also able to return to the outside world and rebuild their lives, no matter what the physical scars. Those who nursed their bitterness remained invalids. It was as simple and as horrible as that. Well, I'm relieved to say that I didn't scream at the dead caller. Instead, I gripped the phone so hard I thought it would break and silently screamed toward heaven, "Help!" I knew what I needed to do, I just wasn't sure I could do it. I took Corrie ten Boom's advice. I silently forgave him. Again. And then my rage dissolved into this strange, thrilling peace. All of a sudden, I felt only compassion for a man who I suddenly realized had lost everything. His business, houses, cars. He had also forfeited every personal connection. His children, lover, business relationships. He'd even lost his hope for the future. He was on his way to prison. Somehow, God gave me the words to encourage him, to give him hope that God isn't looking at how we started our race, but how we finish. Thanks for listening.